is up, guys? Welcome back to Think Shame. Today, I want to double-click into the Jimmy Butler standoff between him and Pat Riley, the GM of the Miami Heat, Jimmy's current team, over his contract extension, which he has been eligible for since the summer and is now looking at a one-year player option for next season for about $52 million. The really quick context for all of this is that free agency is basically done. Most of the time, guys are subject to what are called sign and trades. Isn't typically a ton of I will just walk into free agency and test the market type of deals. A lot less player movement in the new CBA era, and particularly with Jimmy Butler with his current age. He is 35 right now. Also, the fact that any extension would be looking at around mid to high 50s into the 60s per year is having Pat Riley in the Heat organization tiptoeing and thinking carefully around investing that much money, again, in a new CBA era where high spending can really come at a high strategic price, holding aside all of the incredible success, greatness, leadership, toughness, everything that Jimmy has provided, bringing them to the finals twice in 4 years in the first half of this decade. Very much underdogs, and it was an incredible story. Now, Jimmy is suspended for the second time this calendar year because he has missed a team plane. The latest instance of him rebelling, kind of causing havoc for the team because of these unsuccessful extension talks. Seemingly to Jimmy, I expect way too little movement on the trade market, which comes at the heels of the first suspension where honestly Jimmy was kind of being pestered by the same reporter who followed up 2 or 3 times about the current status of the extension talks. It's very obvious that they have been underway. Jimmy is not performing at his best. The body language is really poor on the court. Again, everybody is kind of aware of that ongoing rift. Miami has until the trade deadline, which I really should fucking know. What the fuck is the NBA trade deadline 2025? Thursday. Great. Oh my God, that's coming up. Okay. Have until February 6th, which is the NBA trade deadline, to get Jimmy moved, or else they will have to wait until the postseason in order to sort things out. And that matters because a lot of the teams that Jimmy has reportedly shown interest in, most prominently Phoenix, based on his on-brand purple and gold and black shoes on the court, and this is what I'm talking about. Those teams are trying to win right now this season, so there is a lot of pressure on an actual trade happening. Everybody knows Matt Ishbia's Phoenix Suns are the highest spending team in the NBA. Basically, in the new CBA era, you can really only be a super ultra high spender for about like 2-3 year windows before those really strict strategic penalties really just stop making operational and strategic sense, because you are sacrificing, future draft assets. You move to the back of the draft and yada. Both sides seem to be really at an impasse and in the first kind of spider's web, so to speak, of the new CBA. I have been a human capital consultant for years now, and the Jimmy Butler, Pat Riley, Miami Heat standoff over his contract extension isn't novel or surprising whatsoever. If you think about it, for you or for me or for most normal people, if you worked your ass off for a promotion or a raise that you felt you deserved and were ultimately denied for, you, much like anybody, is going to curb your discretionary effort, the extra time, effort you put into driving value for the business, and reallocate it towards looking and seeking for opportunity elsewhere. You're going to check in with your network. You're going to start revving up the LinkedIn Premium. You're going to start firing off your resume elsewhere. And at the same time, pretty much do the bare minimum for that current role because you feel disrespected. And also, there might just be legitimate operational reasons why they can afford to give you more money. Only reason this specific scenario with Jimmy Butler is special at all is that he is a star on a middling Miami Heat team underperforming and not doing super well, which means he doesn't have the luxury of just coasting. Like I just described, you're going to do the bare minimum to allow yourself to really look elsewhere and invest that time and energy there. Jimmy literally can't afford to do that because he needs to be the best or second best player on the court every single night. And so instead of risking an injury at his age, which is 35, he is cutting that mystery with a knife. Executives at the Fortune 100, 200, 500 levels use these hostage tactics all the time. You are going to make me the CXO, or you are going to lose your best or most knowledgeable leader of X in the organization's context, really arm barring the business into giving you the promotion, giving you more money, etc., etc. It's a lot of power dynamics, and sometimes it results in a similar kind of standoff. Point being, this sort of thing is not special whatsoever, and the scale of money in question here, yes, Jimmy Butler makes a ton of money, but the premise is always the same because we ultimately are talking about human nature and psychological tendencies. Additional to that, the actual stakeholders of the business, fans of the Miami Heat or the employees of the Miami Heat that rely on success to provide them with paychecks and health insurance, they never matter. This is squarely a game of chicken over company money. Do not fool yourselves. Pat Riley and Jimmy Butler do not give a flying fuck about you as a Miami Heat fan or just general NBA fan. They are squarely playing a game of chicken about company money and nothing more. And so you can go ahead and project all of the self-righteousness that you want onto Jimmy Butler's actions. The reality is, A, Jimmy Butler is completely within his rights to sabotage the Miami Heat organization. There is no contract obligation. Everything is guaranteed monetarily. And yes, he can be suspended, but everybody is aware that these things are guaranteed. So unless he's doing anything illegal, at least to my understanding, he is frankly allowed to really do whatever it is that he wants, up to and including being honest with the media and not being engaged on the court. B, Pat Riley knew if this kind of standoff were to materialize, he and his operations team would have to be the ones to clean up the mess. If you have an unhappy superstar that is all but submarining your team's performance and connectiveness and all of those things, there is nobody else more responsible for alleviating it than the actual front office of the franchise. But even still, C, Pat Riley went ahead and behaved how he did at the end of last season anyway. If you don't like it, don't have guaranteed contracts in the NBA. Don't publicly belittle Jimmy as a GM after he makes comments around being able to beat an in-conference rival if he had been healthy for absolutely no fucking reason whatsoever. Completely out of line and makes no sense at all to me. Or operate like a family business in the 80s. This whole militaristic dad is always right and you are going to line up and shut up, especially with a super hard-headed, stubborn guy like Jimmy Butler, who clearly has a track record of making these kinds of situations very testy, as we saw in Minnesota previously. This doesn't condone Jimmy Butler's behavior. Obviously, it is detrimental for the league. It's a terrible look. It's not great for Miami fans, who are really the only true losers of this entire situation, as well as, I guess, the team. I think what is being lost in public discourse is that this kind of standoff and trend of behaviors from Jimmy, this is the brass tacks of business, and I believe this is a hate the game, not the player scenario. The NBA has decades worth of cultivating superstar entitlement by caving into superstar demands for money or trades, etc. And obviously, Jimmy is operating under that kind of precedent. That's being magnified by a very, very hard-nosed, long-tenured GM who has operated like an authoritarian figure for essentially his entire regime, where nobody is saying no to him ever, and that has never been in the realm of possibilities. And so when he is undoubtedly asking or instructing Jimmy to shut the fuck up and be a good leader and actually contribute on the court, and then Jimmy is not listening to him, not many players have done that. So I'm sure that Pat Riley is grappling with that scenario extremely maturely and with a lot of poise. And so you get these hard place and a wall opposing forces where clearly Pat Riley felt more than comfortable with publicly belittling Jimmy Butler's availability after Jimmy Butler got hurt by Kelly Oubre very early in last year's postseason, has ties to Jimmy's notorious nonchalant outlook on the regular season where he doesn't really play a lot of games, but Riley still felt compelled to enter into the ring of public discourse after that video of Jimmy Butler made its rounds online saying we would have been able to beat the Knicks if I were healthy. Why would you even get involved in that whatsoever other than being such a long-tenured general manager with all of the assurance and confidence in your job security in the fucking world, thinking maybe it's going to light a fire under Jimmy to have to grind for his extension contract that is reaching a head now, but clearly set a very murky tone for the summer off season. And now, of course, heading into the regular season where very clearly Jimmy is returning fire with his widely recognized hard-headedness and stubbornness as well, which again had to have been in the calculus before Riley's comments publicly, as well as their reluctance to award Jimmy a contract extension. The obvious logical next step is work and partner with him to get on the same page and find him a potential trade suitor prior to all of this bad blood and publicity coming to light on the national stage. You clearly haven't gotten on the same page with him. You stepped into the realm of public discourse and taking shots at your star player, which only a super entitled and confident in his job security general manager will even attempt to do. And now you have to play cleanup, as any front office obviously would have to play anyway. The only difference is you've let it get to a point where everybody, including the open market, is aware of how hell-bent Jimmy is on getting out of Miami, that you have completely submarined any potential asset value you can probably reap for Jimmy, which obviously hurts your own team in terms of assets like picks or good young players. If bidders know that you are literally stuck with an unhappy guy who is willing to get himself suspended multiple times, why do I feel compelled to give you above asking price for that asset? Now we're talking about you cutting off your own legs in that open market, hamstringing your ability to even get good value back for an unhappy superstar, all of which could have been easily projected out way back in the past. You look like an outdated, authoritarian, family-owned and operated business back in the 80s that can't seem to come to grips with the player empowerment era, nor has the self-awareness to recognize, oh, if we make these comments in the public space, or oh, if we're kind of on the fence about giving him $60 million a year on the extension that he will obviously be expecting given how much he has provided for us, maybe we should get out ahead of it and work with him to partner together to find him a good suitor down the line that will give both sides what he wants. Clearly, you were way too hard-headed self-absorbed and prideful to allow that kind of symbiotic partnership to come to fruition. And what do you know? Now you fucking screwed yourself. There are no great assets out on the market. There are potential bidders, but you are either going to have a PJ Tucker scenario where he's technically on the roster, but literally isn't even going to games, or he is going to twist the knife by opting into the last year of his contract of his player option for $52 million for the next season, which means an entire other season kind of essentially a wash, because that much money puts you that much closer to the second apron in the new CBA, which means you can't go out and afford to get other really good players to even replace him. You're basically punting on next year while dealing with a very, very dark cloud over the entire team, which again could have been managed and prevented with a lot more proactive strategic thinking of getting on the same page and partnering together to find the best place. And that way, Jimmy can get his money, the organization can get its assets, but you couldn't let go of the pride. Pat Riley and the front office of the Heat deserve far and away the most amount of blame for this terrible, distracting product that they are putting in front of their fans, who are ultimately the only losers in this scenario, while all of these people at the top of the organization, plus Jimmy, are really just bickering over money that we cannot even comprehend. With these kinds of private enterprise disputes, the only actual losers are the peripheral stakeholders of the business, like the fans of the product that you are putting on the floor with a middling team that is maybe going to make the play-in, probably worse, as well as the employees and all of the brand sponsors and all of the people that are invested in the Heat being successful. You have two hard-nosed, ultra rich, fucking stubborn, hard-nosed dudes butting heads against each other over millions and millions and millions and millions of dollars that, again, we do not even possess the ability to comprehend. So fuck Pat Riley for not getting his shit together preemptively and having this much pride to comment completely unnecessarily on Jimmy Butler's availability after a rightful injury early in last playoffs. And also, fuck whoever is in charge of managing these player relationships, preemptively knowing that you were probably not going to give Jimmy the extension that he was looking for. Based on how much value he has provided in recent years, it is so more than obvious he was going to demand the absolute max. If you weren't okay with awarding that at the onset, somebody should have been in charge of owning and trying to protect that relationship with Jimmy Butler to try and develop a symbiotic relationship so that Jimmy can get what he wants and the franchise can get what it wants. Now, as one would expect, Pat Riley in the front office, they have to clean up the mess. So you're fucking stupid for not getting in front of this and for amplifying the tension in play as is. As far as Jimmy goes, again, there is nothing in his contract prohibiting this from happening. He is not the first player to do this. It's not even the first time that he has done it. Another reason you're fucking stupid if you're Pat Riley's team. This is just the brass tacks of business that we have to recognize is ingrained in the fabric of how the league works, particularly with star players. I have no sympathy for Miami Heat's front office looking awful on the national stage as far as being an outdated, out-of-touch, militaristic, authoritarian franchise where Pat Riley clearly is acting as if he has the most job security in the NBA, which he probably does, and now he's met his maker and seems to be asking, well, what the fuck do I do now? Great fucking question. You get him the fuck out and probably take a discount on him right now because you do have desperate teams Phoenix, Warriors, etc., that are willing to at least provide something to you, or you're going to be stuck with even more or even worse shenanigans for an entire other season. And everybody knows when you have a PJ Tucker type standoff thing where the guy's not even showing up to games, you look fucking incompetent and really fucking embarrassing. So those are my thoughts there. Hate the game, not the player. Jimmy's doing what he has to and what he has every right to. And at the end of the day, the front office of the Heat were always going to be the ones who would have to clean up any potential mess anyway, but they didn't put themselves in position to either prevent it or better manage it as the new season unraveled, both for the Heat, who are underperforming, as well as, more importantly, potential trade suitors like the Phoenix, who are also underperforming. If they hadn't been on such bad terms in the first place, maybe, just maybe, both parties could have worked together to find a course of action that would have left them both happy.